The desert wind doesn't cool you. It scrapes your skin like something alive, carrying sand that gets into your teeth, your eyes, the creases of your knuckles. You haven't eaten in 31 days. Your tongue is swollen, your ribs are visible, and something in the silence keeps talking to you. But that comes later. Rewind. You're born in a livestock shelter. Not a barn. That's a European invention projected backward. This is a carved-out space in limestone rock, where animals are kept at night because their body heat warms the house above. The feeding trough they lay you in is a stone block with a hollowed center. It smells like dung and wet straw, and the iron tang of afterbirth. Your mother is maybe 14. She's lying on a dirt floor in a town that isn't hers, in a province Rome doesn't think about unless taxes are late. No one in Bethlehem notices. The Roman Empire has 60 million people. Judea is a third-tier client state, not even important enough to warrant a proper governor yet. Augustus is running the census that brought your parents here, and he will never, not once in his life, hear your name. You grow up in Nazareth, a village of maybe 400 people, clustered on a hillside in Lower Galilee. No synagogue building. The village is too small. Torah is read in someone's house. Your father is a tekton, which gets translated as carpenter, but the word really means construction laborer. Stone, wood, whatever the job needs. You learn the trade before you learn to read. Your hands are calloused by 8. By 12, you can cut a mortise joint clean enough to hold a roof beam without pegs. Nazareth sits an hour's walk from Sepphoris. Now, the regional capital Herod Antipas is rebuilding in Roman style. There's work there. You and your father walk the road carrying tools. You see Roman architecture going up, columns, mosaics, a theater that seats 4,000. You're hauling stones for people who see you as part of the scenery. The language situation alone tells you where you stand. You speak Aramaic at home, Hebrew in religious settings, though you understand it better than you speak it. Greek is the trade language. You pick up enough to negotiate day labor rates. Latin you hear barked by soldiers and officials. 4 languages, and in 3 of them, you're no one. Your father dies. The texts go quiet on this, but the absence is loud. He's gone before you begin public life. You become the head of a household with at least 6 other children, 4 brothers named James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas, plus sisters whose names nobody records. You're the eldest son in a laborer's family in an economy with no safety net. You work. You provide. For years, this is the whole of your life. Nothing prophetic, nothing dramatic, just sawdust and sore muscles and making sure everyone eats. Then something shifts. You walk south to the Jordan River, where a man named John is performing ritual immersion. Not the temple kind with its fees and priest oversight, but a free public act of repentance in open water. The crowds around him are enormous. He's calling the religious authorities a nest of vipers to their faces. He's telling soldiers to stop extorting people. He's telling tax collectors to take only what's owed. This is not religion. This is a man on fire. You step into the river. The water is brown, barely knee-deep in places. John puts you under, and when you come up, something breaks open inside you that you will spend the next 3 years trying to explain to people who don't have the framework to understand it. 40 days in the Judean wilderness. This is not a forest. This is the most barren terrain in the region. Chalk hills, dry wadis, temperatures that swing from scorching to freezing in hours. No shade, no water source unless you know exactly where to look. Your body starts consuming itself after day 3. By week 2, your mind does things you can't fully trust. The hunger becomes a sound, a hum behind everything. And in that space, the temptation isn't dramatic. It's reasonable. Turn stones to bread. You're starving. And you can. Claim political power. The world is broken. And you could fix it faster with an army than with parables. Test whether God is real by forcing a miracle. Every option is logical. Every option is a shortcut. You say no 3 times and walk out of the desert on legs that barely hold you. Now you start talking, and immediately the problems begin. You return to Nazareth. You stand up in the gathering and read from Isaiah. The scroll is handed to you, and you choose the passage about liberation, recovery of sight, freedom for the oppressed. Then you sit down, which is the teaching posture, and you say, "This is fulfilled right now, in your hearing." The room turns. These people changed your swaddling cloths. They watched you learn to plane wood. The whisper moves fast. "Isn't this Joseph's son?" You respond by pointing out that prophets are never accepted in their hometown. And you cite examples of God favoring foreigners over Israel. They try to throw you off a cliff. Your own neighbors, your childhood village. This is the first week. You move to Capernaum, a fishing town on the Sea of Galilee. Bigger than Nazareth, maybe 1,500 people. You start gathering followers. Not disciples in the academic sense. You're not a credentialed rabbi with a school. You're pulling working men off boats. Simon and Andrew are mending nets. James and John are in a boat with their father. Matthew is sitting at a tax booth, which means he's a collaborator with Rome, which means everyone hates him. You say, "Follow me," and they do, and nobody around them understands why. You heal people. This part gets sanitized in stained glass, but think about what it actually looks like. A man with leprosy, open sores, missing fingers, hasn't been touched by another human in years because contact makes you ritually unclean. You touch him in front of everyone. The religious contamination flows uphill in their theology. The clean person becomes unclean. You don't care. You put your hand on his skin, and the disease stops. Word spreads in a world with no media, which means it spreads slowly and gets distorted fast. By the time a story about you reaches Jerusalem, 40 miles south, it's been through dozens of retellings. The Pharisees hear you're forgiving sins, which is God's job. The Sadducees hear you're drawing crowds, which is politically dangerous. Herod Antipas hears you might be John the Baptist back from the dead. He had John beheaded already, and the guilt is eating him alive. You're walking a razor line every day. The crowds want a military messiah, someone to drive out Rome. The religious authorities want you silent. Rome wants stability. Your own followers keep misunderstanding what you're doing. You speak in parables because direct statements get you killed faster. But even your inner circle asks you afterward what you meant. The pressure is constant. Crowds so thick you can't eat. Mark's gospel mentions this. Your family comes to collect you because they think you've lost your mind. Your own mother and brothers show up to pull you out of public life. You don't go with them. You point to the crowd and say, "These are my family now." Think about what that costs. Think about your mother's face. You keep going. You feed 5,000 people with almost nothing, and they try to make you king by force. You disappear into the hills alone. You walk on water in the dark, and your closest friends think you're a ghost. You ask them who they think you are, and Peter says the Messiah, and you tell them not to tell anyone, and in the next breath you explain that the Messiah has to die. Peter pulls you aside and rebukes you, tells you this can't happen. You call him Satan to his face, the man you'll build everything on. You look at him and say, "Get behind me," because you're thinking like a human, not like God. 3 years. That's all you get. 3 years of walking an average of 20 miles a day in sandals through terrain that shreds feet. Sleeping outside more nights than not. No income. Dependent on the hospitality of strangers and a few women who fund the operation out of their own resources. Luke names them Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Susanna. Without them, the movement starves. Then Jerusalem. The final week. You ride in on a donkey and the crowd lays down palm branches and shouts Hosanna, and within 5 days they'll be screaming, "Crucify him." You walk into the temple and overturn the money changers' tables. Not a gentle protest, a physical confrontation in the most sacred space in Judaism. You braid a whip. You drive out animals. You scatter coins across the stone floor. The chief priests watch this happen in their jurisdiction and decide formally that you need to die. Thursday night, the Last Supper. You wash your disciples' feet, which is the job of the lowest servant in the household. You tell them one of them will betray you. They all deny it. Judas leaves. The room goes quiet. Gethsemane, an olive grove on the Mount of Olives, just east of Jerusalem. You ask your closest 3 friends to stay awake with you while you pray. They fall asleep. 3 times you come back. 3 times they're unconscious. You're sweating blood. Hematidrosis, a documented medical condition triggered by extreme psychological distress, where capillaries in the sweat glands rupture. You're alone in the most important moment of your life, the arrest, the trial. 6 separate hearings in less than 18 hours. Annas, Caiaphas, the Sanhedrin, Pilate, Herod, Pilate again. You're beaten between sessions, sleep-deprived, dehydrated. The Roman flagrum has bone and metal woven into leather strips. It removes skin in layers. Most men don't survive the full 39 lashes. You do because they're not done with you yet. You carry a 100-pound crossbeam through the streets of Jerusalem, uphill to Golgotha. You collapse. They pull a man named Simon from the crowd to carry it the rest of the way. Iron spikes go through your wrists, not your palms. The bones can't support the weight. Your feet are nailed to the upright. The cross drops into its hole in the rock with a jolt that dislocates your shoulders. You hang for 6 hours. Breathing requires pushing up on the nails through your feet to expand your lungs. Every breath is a decision to keep suffering. Crucifixion kills by asphyxiation. Eventually your legs give out and you can't push up anymore. Somewhere in the middle you say, "Forgive them." The sky goes dark at noon. This isn't poetry. Multiple sources outside the Gospels reference it. At 3 in the afternoon, you cry out. And what you say is a quotation from Psalm 22, not a statement of despair, but the opening line of a poem that ends in vindication. Then you die. The temple curtain tears. The ground shakes. A Roman centurion, a man who's killed hundreds, looks up at your body and says, "Surely this was the Son of God." 3 days later, the tomb is empty. And that part, what happens next, what it means, whether it happened the way they say, that's not the story. The story is the 33 years before it. The calluses, the hunger, the people who misunderstood you, the family who doubted you, the friend who sold you, the crowds who turned, the silence of every moment you could have stopped it and didn't. That's what it cost.